Hi again. This is Shadows from the Tree. We are here to discuss the genealogy and how we relate newspaper archives to helping find relatives and interesting stories from the past. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Danielle.
And welcome to this week's episode.
Perfect. All right, well, I will just jump in and get us started. So we decided for this week's episode that we would look into some kind of love triangles. And so I found one that was interesting right off the bat. And it was from July 17th, 1921, from the Philadelphia Inquirer from Pennsylvania. And it was headlined, Broadway's Most Mysterious Romance.
Ooh.
Yes, and you know it kind of piqued my interest because I like Broadway shows in general. And, so I read the first paragraph, which I'm just going to read to you because it's like captivating, and it just shows how they wrote back then, which is always interesting. So, all right, here we go. The garrulous theatrical world that boldly defines all law and conventions, and when the lovers involved were a wealthy and influential manager and one of the most charming young actresses of the American stage.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so that had
Tabloid
me.
headlines.
That had me. So, all right, I'm going to try to gear you up here to the characters. So, the wealthy manager was Alf Hayman.
Alf?
Yeah. And he had a wife, Rose. Her maiden name was Morris.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the actress, Anne Murdock.
Yeah. Okay.
So Anne, that was her acting name. Mm-hmm. Her birth name was Irene Coleman.
Okay.
And so she was born in 1890. And he, Alf, the manager. was born in 1865.
Quite an age gap there.
Yeah, so there's an age gap. So I'm going to start off with Anne. So
25 years?
Yeah, I think, yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and with the title, you kind of already know something's happening. So Anne became famous at the age of 17 when she starred in a show in 1908 called The Call of the North. She was known for stage and silent film. So that's what she did. And she was the actress for the Frohman Management. And I guess her mother, in a different article that I had found, was also one of the first leading actresses of that Frohman group. That when it first was created by Charles Frohman. And I had found an article that said that the mom never wanted her to go into acting.
Right.
I wonder why.
Did the mom know Alf is the question.
Good point. So Alf took over for Charles when he died. So he became the head of this Frohman theatrical enterprise. Mm-hmm. And he was very known and liked in New York, the articles had said. And he had been the right-hand man for this Charles, so he kind of knew what he was doing, and he probably took it over from where he started. And he had his wife Rose, and they kind of were together at the very beginning when he was not making a lot of money and trying to start out. And so she was there through the thick of it.
Wow. Yeah. Not the best.
Yes.
Not the best husband.
Yeah. Nope. So, so I'm just going to put a few feelers out there. Do you have any idea how the theater world would have known that there was something going on between Alf and Anne?
Like preferential treatment or something? She got a part where others didn't get it? Something like that?
That's a good point. I'm going to fill you in. But I will note that in 1916, she quit the Frohman Company because she was not satisfied with the plays that Alf was picking out for her.
Oh. Well.
Yeah. So, poor Anna. But, so, we all found out that there was something going on because when he died, in his will, he left his whole estate to Anne.
What?
Which was
the whole company then?
So just the estate of the house,
okay.
but that was she now was like a multimillionaire.
Oh.
And the wife got nothing in the will, and the sisters didn't get anything in the will.
This is like his daughters,
his sisters.
You mean? Oh, his sisters.
His sisters.
Did he have any kids?
They didn't have any kids.
Oh, well.
So I was trying to find out a lot of information here. So Rose, I guess in another article, she was given, like, she had a policy on his life insurance, and so she was supposedly given money like yearly,
like a stipend.
Yeah. And so I think she did okay, because in the year of his death in 1921, she was off. She got a passport. She went traveling, and in the passport, it was noted that she was had a deceased husband, and she was a widow. Yeah. So she kind of like stuck by.
Was her family wealthy to begin with, or was?
I didn't get too far into her family.
Yeah.
But she was still doing fine.
Oh.
Because she was getting money from the life insurance or whatever kind of policy. But there was stories that, like, they had been separated for a few years, like 4 years. So it was almost like they maybe should have been divorced, but he just never committed to it. I don't know why. Like, people said it must have not been about money, because he had a ton of money.
Right.
And then why, and the biggest thing that stuck out to me was, they talk about New York and Broadway and rumors and gossip and all that, and like even their closest of friends mentioned that they had no clue that there was something going on. And even the mom, I'm guessing more so when they first started out becoming famous, like she would chaperone all of their like time together, in a sense. Like people would see them going dancing and having dinners together quite often, but supposedly the mom was always like chaperoning that.
So did she sign off on
right? Was she giving?
Yeah.
Right. She giving him
there? But she didn't even want her in the business then. So.
Right.
That's weird.
Yeah. So yeah, why was she chaperoning him?
Yeah.
Because it almost was making her feel like, or at least the daughter be like, "Yep, this is okay because my mom's here and she's watching us do this, and it's fine." Yeah, that's a good point. So. There were a few other things he left. He left some employees like $10,000 and things like that. But it was nothing like she got. And let me just see my note here. But there was a few articles saying that the wife and the sisters were not going to contest the will. And there was a statement that had said that the money will not buy her happiness, and she will not enjoy it. From the wife. That's what the wife said. And the sisters said they had never even met Rose, the wife, nor did anyone in their family, which I found was very interesting because they had been married for a while. But they had met Anne when Alf was on his like deathbed. They had gone to be with him, and that's when they had met Anne for the first time, and they thought she was very pleasant and was not going to contest, the will either.
So was she living with him when he was dying?
So she was caring for him.
Oh.
And, when this is all kind of being said, I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to, and I didn't do this ahead of time, but I'm wondering, like, what is the age of the mom?
Yeah.
And could this be her dad? I don't know.
Right,
that thought is just coming.
Married?
No. I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah.
Because 25 years, like that would explain.
Right, and if he had no other children, then
right, that would explain her getting all the money. That would explain the interest he took in her.
Yeah.
That would explain the mom maybe being okay with that. But then would that mean her mom? Yep. Irene is, I don't know. It's a theory because
good theory. I think I don't see any loopholes in it.
Because what happened was Anne, she went on and she had 3 marriages after this. 2 ended in divorce. One she like sued the husband and tried to get his money, which I think she won. And there was even a time too where she had gone with Alf to Europe for a month. Mm-hmm. So they were obviously very close, which is just very interesting. But she died supposedly in Switzerland when she was 48, so she probably didn't even get to enjoy the money because it was very short life for her.
Was she in a lot of shows after she left?
She continued to be in shows through different companies.
Okay.
But like she traveled. Like her first divorce happened in Paris. Her third marriage happened in Italy. So
extravagant.
She was well traveled.
That's cool.
Yep. So yeah, I just found this one very interesting. That even though the wife, I don't know, did the wife Rose? I guess there was times that they were living apart, but did she know this was happening? Did she care what was happening if they were sort of already separated in a sense? I don't know. But she didn't get anything, but she didn't care to fight for it, so.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's a good love triangle story.
It was a love triangle that no one even knew until he died.
Right.
So, that's what I've got.
Very good. Okay. My love triangle takes place in Stratford, Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
So the list of characters we have is Rose Ambler.
Oh, a rose.
I know. That's why I saw your notes, so I said Rose. Okay, I have a Rose too. Rose Ambler. Her main name was Clark. And we have Norman Ambler, her husband. We have William Lewis, Norman's cousin.
Ooh.
And there's also her first love. We'll talk about him in a little bit. So it's more like a square. Let's call it a love square today. So Rose married Norman Ambler. They, had a normal type of relationship, but they all went to school together. William, Rose, and Norman. So.
And do you know if this town of Connecticut would have been large back then or small, like close-knit, everyone knew everybody?
Everyone knew everybody.
Okay.
There was like the town dances and, everyone was trying to woo Rose is what a lot of the articles had said. So they, were not fighting over her, but she was the belle of the ball, according to a lot of articles. So Norman had won her over. But we have, not always happy marriages. So they were married a few years. They had a daughter named Ethel, and they took in William, started living with them. So Norman was a farmer, and then William would peddle and sell the vegetables. So he would take them to like bigger cities, and he would sell the family vegetables at the markets. So he was a better salesman. He was kind of more charismatic than Norman. And he started paying a little attention to Rose because Norman was a little more on the quiet side. Yeah.
Wait, is it the cousin?
Yeah. Norman's cousin.
Okay. So not
Rose's cousin, but Norman is Rose's husband.
Oh.
So, Yeah. So,
Oh, no.
So, needless to say, that marriage didn't last much longer after that. But, there was some fights between Norman and Will. So Will decides he's going to take off. He's done. His parents are actually more well off. I guess his mother was widowed at this point, and she lived in a mansion, so to speak. So he was living with her again. But, things were not going well, and Rose decided she's going to divorce Norman.
Oh.
And so he did not want to sign the papers. There was a whole thing to do with, like, police and...
Oh, no.
Yeah, so she said he was not the nicest to her. And even gave the daughter over to him and his mother. She didn't even take care of her daughter anymore.
What?
Yeah.
She wanted to just be done. No responsibility.
She was, like, done with him. She went back to her family. She was living with her mother. And this is all in newspaper articles. Like, I found at least 30 about this story because William and Rose started things back up again, and they were supposedly engaged. And she would walk 2 miles from her parents' house to his family plot. And this happened 3 to 4 nights a week. They even had the schedule in the article.
I wish you guys listening could just see my eyebrows right now because they're just raising that.
I have so so many different notes on this.
Like, first of all,
yeah.
I can imagine just leaving your daughter.
Yeah. Well, there's
being done.
There's kind of backstory. I think she really was just. He had lied to her in so many different instances. I feel like she didn't want anything to do with him, and maybe she resented the whole situation.
But didn't she think if she's going to get with the cousin that she's going to be somehow intertwined in seeing him again?
Well, you'd think. But there's, never a happy ending in my stories, unfortunately. So we have them... back in this kind of courtship, they supposedly were engaged. She's going to visit. It was Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and then Saturdays, Sundays. It was like a very structured thing. But she would go later at night, and then she would walk home in the dark, and he wouldn't escort her because he had to leave early in the morning.
And what year was this?
Oh, this is like 1875, and then... Actually, 1883 is where she's going nightly. 1883. So we're talking horse-drawn buggies, and he's pedaling in the...
No street lights.
Yeah, definitely not. No. And so she's going by herself. She refused his help. So one night, unfortunately, she doesn't make it home. Right. So there's all kinds of accusations. So she's found by a stone wall closer to her house, and she was murdered.
Oh my
There was
goodness.
Strangulation marks on her neck, and
gosh.
there was a battle, let's just say, and she did not make it out. So there were like neighbors that were woken up. That thought it was like a screech owl around midnight, and apparently it was her cries.
Oh, that's so sad.
Night. So yeah, so there was stories. They were like, oh, it was her husband,
right, blaming,
but he was like miles away. He had alibis.
Okay.
It wasn't Norman, although he even tried to get her back. Like, he always said he was her one and only love. He sent her letters and more letters, and Rose's mother was like, she wrote him back once and said, kind of kindly, like, please stop. Just, I'm all set.
Right, like, she's done with you.
I'm done with you, Norman. Please take a hike.
Wow.
So he was kind of cleared pretty quickly, but then there's William. Like, he's engaged to her. He's supposedly building a house. They were making plans on, like, what furniture and kitchenware they needed. That, like, they were planning that because the house was going to be done within the next month, and they were planning getting married and all that. But then there was rumors that in the city he had another lady.
William? Jeez.
Yeah, so he's charismatic. He was just out and about. But there was no, like, name of another woman, so I'm not 100% if that was, like,
sometimes you take it with a grain of salt because they like to...
so many different kinds of opinions on it.
Yeah.
So many articles. It was mostly the Meriden in Connecticut, and then there was some in New York, but they really... just kept looking and looking deeper. They actually used microscopic, like, scrapings of her finger, like, even back then.
Really?
Yes, and they were comparing, like, the color of the skin cells because they were trying to figure out the race of the person who did it.
Oh,
and,
man.
Yep. There was even preachers who were saying from the pulpit that William did it because of the way this kind of came about, because it was a kind of inappropriate relationship to begin with, so he had no propriety, and he probably killed her. And
wow.
Yeah. So, but he didn't mind because apparently his business with the vegetables was booming. Like, he had to, he told some article he had to bring twice as many because everyone wanted to buy his.
Wait, after he was being called out for potentially,
after
people just wanted to, like, see him, like, oh, I saw him, I heard this, I heard that.
William Lewis, the murderer.
Wow.
But let's get back to why she didn't really like Norman in the first place. So let's do a little... There was this interesting article. There was two of them, actually. There was one who was like, we talked to this old woman who wore a white shawl, and she knew all the town gossip. And, I always
one in the town, right?
I always like those. Those seem, like, so detailed and juicy here. But when she was younger, so this is in the summer of 54.
Okay.
So her father was a sea captain. So even when she was he didn't know she was murdered because he was out at sea.
Oh, wow.
So they
Some
had
shocking news when he got back.
they had all the funeral and everything before he even came back from sea, and
wow,
it was pretty rough. But there was, his name was Clark, Captain Clark, and he had a brother named Sheldon. And then they were visiting, it looks like down south. So Captain Clark of Connecticut came to visit his brother Sheldon and brought his daughter Rose with him. She was then a girl in her teens and was described as bright and happy, winsome child who frolicked and disported about with in the wild and beautiful country. A mini ball at the Battle of the Wilderness brought the lover to complete the matter. Captain James Gelsthorpe of the Confederate Army received a bullet to the chest at the dreadful array and came back home on the Greenbrier to recuperate. He and Rose met, and a short time after their acquaintance began, they both were members of a boating party on the Greenbrier. Their canoe overturned in the rapids, and Rose Clark made her way to shore, assisted by the arm of the officer, without which she must have perished. So basically, he saved her life. So soon after, the two became engaged to marry, and Rose went back home to Connecticut. Through some cause, several letters from whom the other were never delivered. So he sent her letters, she sent him letters. They never went to who they were supposed to go. So finally, she got kind of sick of it, and back home, who's nagging her? Who's paying her attention? Norman. Norman, okay? So then, after, I think it's a year later, he came back in the scene, and she had learned too late that both of them had been victims, because she had already married Norman when Captain Gelsthorpe came back to Connecticut, and it said the letters had been intercepted and the two lives ruined. The despair that followed covered her life after that. Believing Ambler to have been the miscreant who, to his own suit, had stopped the letters, she hated him so much after that.
The husband she first married was stopping the letters to her true love, who saved her.
Yes. Yes.
It's probably stalkers at that time, because he probably was just waiting at the mailbox or however they delivered the letters back then.
Right? So why did she, had some pretty...
I wonder when she found that out.
When he came back. When the captain came back and he was like, you didn't read my letters? It was kind of, reminded me of The Notebook, when the mom, just, didn't let her get the letters.
Wow.
So, but I guess this captain, he returned to West Virginia, and he studied the law, and he got married later on and had a family, but she did not.
And she lost her kid, or... gave up her kid, had no marriage.
Yeah, and then
got successful and then
murdered.
Jeez.
Yeah. There's lots of different versions where some say they see her walking with another man, and, because she doesn't have the best reputation. They're like, she had a second lover. And then there was this detective who said, oh, it couldn't have been a married man. It had to have been, we're all so... It's just, okay, sure.
So
these articles...
Was anyone tried, or was it just left open?
They offered rewards. They did all these... They had detectives from other cities come, and they had people look at the autopsies. Like I said, they did tests with the microscopes.
They didn't find anything.
No, they never...
So it went unsolved.
Unsolved, yep. And Norman only lived till he was 40. He didn't make it much longer. And William, there's a million William Lewises. So I couldn't really find what happened to him after the fact. But he didn't serve any time. There was one article, though, about him a year later, 1884. He was arrested for assault on one of his neighbors. He was drunk, and he drew 2 revolvers on the constable. He was then disarmed and arrested without having hurt anyone. There was talk about keeping him because he had been holding concealed weapons, but typically that wasn't something they kept him in prison for long with. But it was just because he had that kind of reputation of...
Jeez.
Yeah.
So, who do you think did it?
I think William did
William?
it. Yeah.
But what was his motive?
I don't think he wanted to be married to her. Like,
Because he wanted this other lady that he
or
had
just
into the city.
someone else, just not being married. Yeah. I don't know.
Jeez.
Yeah, because they say strangulation is such like a intimate way to kill somebody. Like, I feel like they would have had to have known each other. I don't know. That's personally what I think about it.
Well, Norman's out because it sounds like they.
Yeah, he was gone. He wasn't even in the town.
The first love would have never
unless
done that.
he paid someone.
Oh, he could have.
Unless he hired a hitman, because he was talking to someone else. They said she was talking to another man, so that was an option. He hired one of his farm workers or somebody he met at they did say that he stole his mother's money. He stole like $2,000. Yeah, Norman. Yeah, she said to go put it in the bonds or something, and he took it all, and he was using it at fight clubs.
Oh. So, yeah. I know. He seems a little suspicious to me.
Yeah, he could have done it.
The fact that
they cleared
he was obsessed with her in a sense that he was trying to stop the true love.
Yep.
And then stealing money from his mother.
Yep.
Enjoying fight clubs. Also was fine to give away his daughter.
Yeah. He's a shady character.
My money's on him.
Yeah.
In a sense, somehow. Yeah.
Yeah. He just seemed like he just wanted her back too bad.
Yeah. That's interesting.
And they said that when they went to interview him, he carried on. He was crying.
Oh.
And he was like, she was the love of my life. I would never hurt her. And
see, he's still
yeah.
He's obsessed with her.
He really was. He was totally obsessed with her.
And he probably was even more upset that she was now going to get married to his cousin.
Right.
So that's like motive in a sense that like
stop it before the wedding happens.
Right.
Because then he's going to have to like part of the family, really.
Yeah, she's going to be seen with the family.
Yeah.
Huh. That's
well, if anyone knows of anything, I know it's hundreds of more years ago, but if you know, like in the family, like there's scrapbook pictures and who knows what else. So
pictures of them.
Yeah, some of these articles were from scrapbooks of people that they put on like Find a Grave.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say that as we've done our own stuff in our family histories, you definitely have been told tales or you could have been told a story like this, but totally different or another key piece to it. Mm-hmm. But all we have is the newspaper and
I wonder what happened to Ethel too, the daughter.
Yeah.
I wonder if she had children and were stories passed down.
Because did you say she lived with the grandma?
Yeah, she lived with Norman's mother.
Yeah, I mean, she would have been at least probably told that her parents weren't in the picture, and that probably shaped who she could have been as a parent or trusting of people in her life.
Yep.
It'd be interesting to see. Cool. That was sad.
Yeah.
Intriguing.
Yep.
Interesting for the time period.
I thought so. It was pretty.
I'm gonna have to see these pictures.
Yeah, I'll show you.
Pictures is my favorite part
I'll show you here.
Of doing genealogy.
Let's see if I can pull her up.
I also was showing Michelle that the article I had was had a few pictures of my character there, Anne, and also Alf.
Here's Norman. I mean, it's a sketch of him.
Studious picture, though.
Yeah. And then this is actual photograph.
Look at the hair.
It's all like tight pin curls, right? Isn't that what that's called? On the top of her head. We'll post this on our social media, but she's wearing very
look at that hairdo.
Yeah.
Even that necklace.
Yep.
I mean, she looks young in that photo.
Yeah. Well, she was 25. So this might have been.
Oh, yeah. Photos are honestly, they just bring it all back to me.
Add life to the story.
They really do. Great. Well, thank you for sharing that one. That was definitely interesting.
Thanks everybody for listening. This is Shadows from the Tree. We'll be talking next week about pet stories, I think. Is that what we're... Yeah, some pet articles from the archive. So listen in, and if you have any interesting stories, feel free to send them over. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.